The Galactic Council chamber was a construction of impossible scale, its vaulted crystalline ceilings reflecting shimmering light across thousands of delegates. Yet despite its grandeur, a tension hung in the air, thick enough to smother every conversation. The humans, only 3 of them, entered without escort, without ceremony, and without fear. Their silent, measured steps echoed louder than the Council's entire security force. No one missed the fact that they walked calmly into the chamber while every other species shifted, whispered, and recoiled. Something was coming, and everyone felt it. The Council members had heard the rumors. Humanity was furious. Not aggressive, not unpredictable, not loud, furious. And the galaxy had learned the hard way that when humans expressed quiet anger, when they spoke in calm tones instead of shouting, that was when civilizations disappeared. The whispers in the chamber carried ancient stories of human retaliation, colonies retaken in hours, fleets dismantled in minutes, threats answered with terrifying precision. At the center of the chamber, towering over all with an air of forced authority, the Galactic Council speaker clicked his mandibles impatiently. He had demanded this meeting, insisting that humanity explain its escalating actions. He expected fear. He expected apology. What he did not expect was the cold, unreadable serenity on the humans' faces. Ambassador Lyra Kensley removed her gloves and folded them neatly on the table, offering the speaker a small, deliberate smile. It was the kind of expression humans used not out of warmth, but out of warning, a smile predators made to show they were not afraid. Half the room recoiled from it instinctively. Aggression? Lyra echoed, as though tasting the word. You attacked our humanitarian convoy. You destroyed our colony on Far Shore. You abducted 137 of our citizens. And you dare accuse us? The speaker raised his voice, though it shook beneath his practiced confidence. We acted within the authority granted by the Council. Humanity's rapid expansion has destabilized regional borders. We intervened for balance. Lyra reached into her coat and placed a palm-sized metallic device onto the table. It emitted a single pulse, soft, almost imperceptible, but the entire chamber flinched as though struck. They didn't know what it was. They only knew humans didn't bring toys to negotiations. This device, Lyra said calmly, is not a weapon. It is a message transmitter. And through it, I deliver humanity's final warning. Nervous shifting rippled across the room. Delegates whispered in their native tongues, translating words as though hoping they'd heard incorrectly. Humans rarely gave warnings. When they did, something irreversible usually followed. With a tap of her finger, Lyra activated the device. A holographic projection filled the space above the table, a vast star map of the galaxy. Hundreds of red indicators blinked across it, clustering around Council territory like blood splattered on a chart. These, Lyra explained, allowing the holo to rotate slowly, are your military outposts, strategic fleets, and orbital defense stations. Every location from which you launched attacks or authorized assaults against human assets. The speaker tried to scoff, but the sound cracked halfway out. A map means nothing. The Council military is vast. Humanity is overextended and outnumbered. You cannot possibly believe you have the power to challenge us. Lyra leaned forward slightly, eyes cool and unblinking. Challenge you? She let that sit for a heartbeat. We already have. Suddenly the holographic red markers began blinking faster. Then, one by one, they faded, red turning to black, black turning to nothing, like candles being snuffed out in the dark. Gasps echoed. Claws scraped on metal. Feathers puffed in shock. No one understood what they were seeing. A reptilian counselor rose shakily. What is happening? Why are the markers disappearing? It's a live feed, Lyra said. As of this moment, every location shown has been neutralized, without casualties. Your forces are unconscious, disabled, or detained. We opted for mercy. The chamber erupted into panic. Council fleets, designed to intimidate lesser species, had vanished from the tactical grid without a single report. No alarms, no distress calls, no warnings. It was as if humanity had slipped through the cracks of reality itself. Impossible, the speaker shouted, his voice sharp with panic. No species can infiltrate our networks or bypass our early warning systems. Lyra simply shrugged. Humans adapt. You underestimate what we build in silence. You underestimate how far we go when we prepare for the worst. She changed the projection again. The map zoomed outward until a colossal structure filled the hologram, a ship so massive it dwarfed moons. Its hull was engraved with human script. Its engines glowed with a power no council scientist could identify. A timid voice somewhere in the chamber whispered, "Project Exodus, the Ghost Project." That was a myth, not a myth, Lyra said. Humanity began constructing it the moment we realized peace with the council was temporary. A moving fortress. A traveling nation. A deterrent built not for war, but for survival when war inevitably found us. The speaker stared at the projection in horror. We believed you were primitive. Disorganized. Too emotional to unify. Yes, Lyra said. You believed wrong. While you argued over borders, we built alliances. While you squabbled over trade tariffs, we perfected technology you haven't even dreamed of. While you tried to contain us, we evolved. More ships appeared around the colossal vessel, sleek, silent, predatory. Stealth hulls shimmered. Engine signatures flickered in ways that defied known physics. Humanity's fleets were unfolding from pockets of dark space no scanners could detect. You cannot win against the unified council, the speaker stammered, sounding like he was pleading with himself rather than humanity. We're not here to win, Lyra replied. We are here to end the cycle. To ensure you never threaten another species the way you threatened ours. Silence spread. Not the peaceful kind, this silence was suffocating, every delegate holding their breath, terrified of what humanity's next move might be. Lyra stood, her shadow projected across the chamber like that of a giant. Humanity now issues its final warning to the Galactic Council. Run. The word struck harder than any weapon. Delegates gasped, some rising in panic, others frozen as if caught in stasis. The council had heard war declarations before, but never a command to flee. Run while you still can, she repeated, her voice low and absolute. Because what follows won't pause, won't negotiate, and won't be stopped. A councillor slammed a clawed hand against the table. You dare threaten the council with annihilation? Lyra sighed softly. No. We're not threatening annihilation. We're announcing consequences. You declared war the moment you attacked unarmed civilians. We are simply responding with the efficiency you forced upon us. She tapped her wrist, and a shimmering portal opened, human technology unknown to the council, bending space as casually as opening a door. You will not leave, the speaker bellowed in desperation. This chamber demands obedience. You are bound by council law. Lyra stepped toward the portal, pausing only to give him a final look of disappointment. Council law ends today. You forfeited authority when you targeted innocents. A trembling delegate whispered, "What will humanity do to us now?" Extermination? Conquest? Lyra shook her head, though there was no kindness in her eyes. Humans don't exterminate. We do something far worse. She scanned the chamber, thousands of alien faces filled with terror, disbelief, and sudden understanding. They finally realized humanity had not come to beg, to negotiate, or to justify. Humanity had come to warn. We bury threats, Lyra said softly. And today, the Galactic Council volunteered to be buried. The portal flickered behind Lyra like a doorway into another reality, its edges humming with a strange blue-white resonance that made the air vibrate. Before stepping through, she turned once more to face the assembly of galactic powers, beings who had once viewed humanity as a curiosity, then a nuisance, and finally a potential threat. Now they stared at her with a dread that went beyond fear. It was the look a prey animal gives the moment it realizes the predator standing before it has grown tired of chasing and is ready to strike. That realization settled over the chamber like a suffocating fog, crushing what little pride the council had left. When Lyra finally vanished through the portal, the chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates from every species shouted over one another, their translators struggling to keep pace with the panic-driven babble. Some demanded immediate retaliation, others insisted on surrender, while a few simply screamed. The speaker tried to restore order, pounding his staff against the crystalline floor until cracks formed, but his voice was lost beneath the rising storm of fear. Humanity's message had not just landed, it had detonated at the heart of galactic diplomacy. Meanwhile, deep within the stars, humanity's fleets repositioned with terrifying coordination. While the Council argued, more than 1,000 human vessels drifted silently through dark space pockets, invisible to sensors and unreachable by conventional means. These ships were sleek, angular, and eerily quiet. Their crews spoke little, communicating through gestures and encrypted neural link networks. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer moved with a singular purpose: defend Earth, avenge the wrongs committed against their people, and ensure, at any cost, that the galaxy understood the price of targeting humanity. Within the command deck of the colossal vessel Project Exodus, Admiral Rhea Solis observed the unfolding galactic chaos. She stood before a wall of holographic projections that updated in real time, Council fleets awakening to find themselves incapacitated, political factions fracturing under the weight of new fears, and rogue states attempting to flee Council space altogether. Yet the Admiral remained calm, her expression unreadable. Humans were not acting out of vengeance, she reminded her officers, they were acting out of necessity, shaped by centuries of survival on a world that had never been gentle. Admiral, one of her lieutenants reported, Council reconnaissance drones have begun scanning for us. Their patterns indicate desperation. They're widening their detection nets far beyond standard protocols. Rhea nodded. Let them search. The more they try to find us, the more they expose their blind spots. Her voice carried the calm of someone who understood the battlefield in a way the Council never could. Humans didn't just fight wars, they learned from them. In the Council chamber, the speaker finally regained enough composure to activate emergency communication networks. His mandibles quivered as he addressed the galaxy, all fleets, prepare for defensive mobilization. Humanity has declared hostility. We must unite to preserve order. But the broadcast faltered as soon as it began. Entire star systems refused the order. Others claimed neutrality. A few even sent private messages to humanity, eager to defect and avoid the Council's fate. The speaker watched in horror as the Council's authority collapsed in real time. Even worse for the Council, civilian worlds across the galaxy erupted into uncertainty. Many species had grown tired of the Council's corruption, its endless bureaucracy, its oppressive taxation and forced conscriptions. Humanity's show of force didn't just terrify the galaxy, it inspired it. Messages poured across encrypted networks: if humanity can stand up to them, maybe we can too. What had begun as a political meeting was turning into a galactic revolution. On the outskirts of Council space, the remains of Far Shore, the human colony destroyed by the Council, had become a memorial site. Human engineers and soldiers worked side by side, lifting debris, recovering artifacts, and erecting a massive shield dome over the ruins. Above the shattered landscape, human drones hovered like silent guardians, scanning the skies for any sign of enemy movement. Every soldier who walked those grounds felt the weight of what had been lost. This was no longer just strategy, this was personal. Among the ruins, Captain Elias Ward stood beside a fragmented statue that once marked Farshaw's Central Plaza. He kneels, running a hand over the cracked stone, remembering the families who had lived here, their laughter, their determination, their hope. "We gave them the chance to leave us alone," he whispered. "They chose to make us monsters." When he rose, there was nothing left of grief in his eyes, only resolve. Back in Council territory, panic spread to military leadership. Admirals, generals, and warlords scrambled to understand how their entire fleet had been neutralized with no warning. Emergency scouts attempted to relaunch only to find their engines dead. Entire armories were locked by foreign code, human code, rendering weapons useless. They felt violated, exposed, powerless. Humanity had not merely defeated them, it had dismantled their illusion of security. The Speaker called a private meeting with the Council's high command, but his authority no longer carried weight. "We must retaliate with every asset left at our disposal," he demanded. But the high command simply stared back, their expressions empty. They had no assets left. Humanity had cut out the heart of their military before they even realized a scalpel had been drawn. In a desperate attempt to regain control, the Speaker ordered the activation of the ancient artifact known as the Arcanis Beacon, a relic from the pre-Council era said to summon an ancient guardian force. But when technicians attempted activation, they discovered something horrifying: the beacon had been disabled months ago. A small holographic message appeared on its interface: "You rely too much on legends." H. No one knew who H was, but every councillor understood one thing: humanity had been ahead of them for far longer than they realized. Meanwhile, humanity broadcast its own message across every channel in the galaxy. Admiral Solis appeared, her posture straight, her gaze unyielding. To all species not directly involved in the Council's crimes, she said, "We have no quarrel with you. Stand down, and you will not be harmed. But if you assist the Council in any way, you are choosing their fate." Her tone was not threatening, it was factual. The reaction was immediate. Hundreds of species pledged neutrality. Several openly declared independence from the Council. A handful even offered assistance to humanity, medical, logistical, or intelligent support. The galaxy was shifting, realigning itself not out of fear of human power, but respect for human resolve. Humanity, it seemed, had become the catalyst for long-suppressed rebellion. The Speaker watched these declarations with growing despair. The Council had always relied on fear to maintain control: fear of punishment, fear of isolation, fear of war. But now fear was working against them. The galaxy feared humanity more than the Council, and for the first time in millennia, that fear was not unfounded. Inside Project Exodus, Admiral Solis convened her Strategy Council. Generals and tacticians appeared via hologram, each providing updates from across the galaxy. "We hold every advantage," one general said. "But the Council may attempt one final act of desperation." Rhea nodded. She knew exactly what they would try, because it was what any cornered animal would try. They would aim for Earth. "Prepare Earth's defensive grid," she commanded. "Activate the Shield of Dawn protocols. And reroute the Home Guard fleet to full combat readiness. If the Council tries to touch our home again, we end this war in a single day." No one questioned her. Humanity's homeworld was sacred, and every soldier would die before allowing harm to reach it. Far across the stars, the Council's last functional strike force, an aging fleet of warships too distant to have been neutralized, received a desperate order: attack Earth. The fleet admiral hesitated. He had seen the holo feed. He knew humanity now possessed technology that made the Council look like children wielding sticks. But his orders were clear, and refusal meant execution. So, with a heavy heart, he directed the fleet toward humanity's cradle. As the strike fleet approached Sol System, something unexpected happened. Their sensors detected nothing unusual: no human fleet, no ambush, no activation of humanity's colossal superstructures. It looked quiet. Too quiet. The Admiral hesitated, confused. This was the most heavily defended location humanity possessed. Why was there no resistance? Then the stars shifted. At first, it appeared as though the constellations themselves were rearranging. But then the truth became impossible to ignore. Those were not stars moving. They were ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Human vessels uncloaked simultaneously, encircling the strike force like a steel web woven through the cosmos. The Admiral's heart plummeted. They were surrounded before they even realized a trap existed. Admiral Rhea Solis appeared on their bridge via hologram, her presence towering and unyielding. "You have aimed your weapons at Earth," she said. "This is your only warning. Shut down your engines, disengage weapons, and surrender. If you do not comply within 10 seconds, we will defend our home." The threat was not shouted. It was spoken with the calm certainty of gravity. The Council Admiral swallowed hard. His officers stared at him, awaiting his command, their faces pale with dread. He considered his options. Fight and be annihilated. Flee and be hunted. Surrender and live. After 3 agonizing seconds, he lowered his head. "Stand down," he ordered quietly. "Power everything off." The human fleet responded instantly. Beams of soft blue light enveloped each council ship, gently disabling engines without causing harm. Humanity had no desire to kill soldiers coerced into war. They were not the Council. They never wanted to be. Back in the council chamber, the speaker received word of the surrender. He collapsed into his seat, his body shaking with humiliation. Everything he had built, every ounce of power he clung to, was slipping through his claws like sand. Humanity had not fired a single lethal shot, yet they had defeated the Council more utterly than any war in recorded history. "What do we do now?" a council advisor asked, her voice trembling. "They have crippled us. Our fleets, our influence, our credibility. We cannot recover from this." The speaker opened his mouth to respond but found no words. For the first time in his life, he felt powerless. Humanity, however, felt no triumph. In the command chamber of Project Exodus, Admiral Solis studied the star map with a solemn expression. Victory meant nothing if the galaxy descended into chaos. The Council needed to fall, but something needed to take its place. A vacuum would only breed more war. And so humanity made its next move. They did not demand subjugation or territory or tribute. Instead, they broadcast a simple message: the Council has lost the mandate to govern. A new galactic convention will be formed, one where every species has a voice, and none have power to abuse. The offer stunned the galaxy. Humanity was not just tearing down an empire, they were offering a chance to rebuild something better. Many species responded with overwhelming relief. Others with suspicion. But all agreed on one truth: humanity was not acting like conquerors. They were acting like guardians, powerful, dangerous, uncompromising, but fundamentally driven by a desire for justice, not dominion. In the ruins of Far Shore, Captain Elias Ward received the message. He stood beneath the newly constructed shield dome, gazing up at the warm golden energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. For the first time since the attack, he felt something unfamiliar creeping back into his chest: hope. Across the galaxy, humanity's fleet shifted from attack posture to protection stance. Instead of intimidation, they offered aid. Instead of destruction, they offered assistance. They repaired damaged infrastructure, disabled corrupt Council surveillance systems, and escorted vulnerable species fleeing oppressive territories. Many Council worlds, fearful of retaliation, expected humanity to strike them down. Instead, human ships delivered food, medicine, and engineering teams. A reptilian governor wept openly when human soldiers helped evacuate her wounded civilians from a collapsing habitat. Why? She asked. Why help us after what the council did? The answer was simple. Because you didn't do it. And we're not them. The speaker watched this shift unfold from the high balcony of the council tower, his claws trembling as he realized the truth: humanity was not the monster he tried to paint them as. They were simply done being victims. He had pushed them, provoked them, underestimated them, and now they stood as the most influential force in the galaxy, not through violence, but through integrity. We must step down, one senior counselor said quietly. The council has no future if humanity builds something better. But the speaker was not ready to accept that fate. There must be a way to regain control, he insisted. Yet even he knew those words were hollow. There was no path back to the old order. Humanity had made sure of it. 74. Meanwhile, across Earth, celebrations erupted as news spread that the planet was safe. People filled the streets, embracing strangers, waving banners, and thanking the soldiers who guarded the skies. But behind the joy, there was an understanding: this was not the end. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had taken its first steps into a new era. Admiral Solis returned to Earth briefly, standing on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The waves crashed below her, the salty air stinging her skin. We didn't start this war, she murmured. But we will finish it the right way. She understood the weight of what came next: not conquest, but leadership. Not domination, but responsibility. Project Exodus, still orbiting silently above Earth, became a symbol of humanity's promise, a colossal vessel capable of reshaping the galaxy, yet governed by principles forged from centuries of hardship. Humans knew the value of unity because they had survived division. They knew the weight of power because they had lived powerless. And they knew the price of conflict because they had paid it many times over. Weeks passed, and the council continued to crumble. More species defected. More worlds sought humanity's guidance. The council's fleets, now powerless, surrendered one after another. The speaker found himself isolated in a once mighty tower now filled with dust and echoes. When he finally sent a request to speak with humanity, it was not a demand but a plea. Admiral Solis answered. The speaker bowed his head. "What will you do with us?" he asked, his voice hollow. Solis studied him silently. Then she answered, "We will do what you never did. We will give you a chance to rebuild, to atone, and to be better." The speaker did not understand at first. But eventually, he realized humanity was offering mercy he would never have offered them. The new Galactic Convention convened for the first time on neutral ground, with humans present not as rulers, but as equal participants. Delegates from thousands of worlds sat together, many for the first time without fear. The galaxy had been shaken. But now, for the first time in ages, it had hope. And as the first session began, a silent understanding passed through the assembly: humanity had changed everything, not by conquest, but by conviction. The warning they had given the council, "Run while you still can," had not been a threat of destruction, but a warning of transformation. The old galaxy was gone. A new one had begun. And humanity, resolute and unbreakable, stood at its heart, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The Galactic Council sat in stunned quiet as the final human fleet withdrew beyond the rim, leaving only the echo of their warning behind. The void felt heavier than before, as if the humans had carved a scar into the very fabric of the galaxy. Many species had assumed this was a victory, driving humanity away, but deep down they now realized it was only the opening move in something far more terrifying. The humans hadn't retreated. They had repositioned. And the silence they left was louder than their war drums. In the weeks that followed, desperate attempts were made to re-establish communication, to seek diplomacy, even to issue apologies. Every message drifted unanswered into the dark. Humanity, once the most talkative species in the network, had become a ghost. Entire systems began reinforcing defenses, not because humans threatened them directly, but because the absence of human presence felt like a storm gathering somewhere just beyond sight. Rumors spread of outposts on the galactic rim witnessing impossible lights, vast shapes moving between nebulae, as silent as they were colossal. Some believed they were human fleets. Others whispered they were new creations, born from humanity's fury and wounded pride. But no one could confirm anything. And that uncertainty became the real punishment, fear of the unknown, of the inevitable, of the humans who had stopped holding back. Then, without fanfare, a single transmission appeared. Not addressed to the Council, not to any government, but broadcast galaxy-wide. It wasn't a declaration of war or peace. It was a recording of Earth, oceans shimmering beneath sunlight, forests swaying under gentle wind, cities humming with life. Humanity showed the galaxy what they had fought for, what had been threatened, and what they would never again allow anyone to touch. It was a reminder, not of human wrath, but of human resolve. After the recording faded, a final message followed. Just 2 sentences: we protect what's ours. Do not force us to protect it from you again. It was calm, measured. But every civilization watching felt the unspoken power coiled beneath it. It was the kind of confidence that came from a species who had survived extinction more than once, who had learned to turn their suffering into strength. Across the Council, political tides shifted overnight. Species that once mocked humanity now advocated for reform. Militaristic factions, once eager to challenge Earth, suddenly proclaimed themselves allies. And those who had waited centuries to conquer the fragile primates now dismantled their war fleets in pure animal fear. The balance of power had changed irrevocably, not through conquest, but through the possibility of it. Time, the galaxy stabilized. Treaties were restructured with humanity in mind, fair, cautious, respectful. Even without being present, humans shaped the new order. Their story became a lesson taught to children across star systems, that strength is not in domination, but in the will to defend what matters. Ironically, the species once labeled Death World monsters became the ideal of discipline and restraint, but not everyone feared humanity forever. Some young species, inspired rather than terrified, ventured to the galactic rim in hopes of meeting humans, not as conquerors or enemies, but as students seeking mentors. They believed humans could teach them courage, innovation, and the stubborn will to survive. And perhaps, one day, humanity would answer. For now, humanity remained a shadow beyond the stars, watching, preparing, rebuilding. They had withdrawn not out of weakness, but to ensure no one could ever endanger their home again. The galaxy finally understood the truth: humans didn't seek war. They sought peace so fiercely that anyone who threatened it would face consequences beyond imagination. And in the quiet that followed, every species made the same silent vow: never again would they underestimate the children of Earth.